Welcome to Connect Canyons, a podcast sponsored by Canyon School District. This is a show about what we teach, how we teach, and why. We get up close and personal with some of the people who make our schools great. Students, teachers, principals, parents, and more. We meet national experts too. Learning is about making connections. So connect with us.
Space. The final frontier. To boldly go where no one has gone before. These are the logs of the star-shaped Connect Canyons. I'm your captain, Francis Cook. As graduation approaches, the class of 2026 are setting their sights on the horizon. Some may dream of space, others look to build their own successful business, and so many other luring dreams of the future. I'm joined today by someone who has walked a similar path. TJ Newman is a Canyons alum who now works among some of the greatest engineers, scientists, and astronauts in the world at NASA in operations control, supporting the International Space Station. TJ, thank you for taking the time to join us.
Of course, I'm happy to be here.
So you what we like to call home cooking. You're born and raised right here in the Canyons community. Would you tell us about your time at school?
Definitely. Yep, I remember my time here very fondly. I think about it a lot. I was born in Draper. I went to kindergarten at Oak Hollow, and then I moved over to Willow Springs Elementary. From there, I went to 7th grade at Crescent View Middle School, and then attended the newly built Draper Park Middle School before I went over to Corner Canyon High School. So lots of different schools throughout my time here, but all of them in Canyon School District. From there, I went on to attend BYU, where I just graduated, and then started full-time at NASA after.
Tell me, when did you know that NASA was where you wanted to build your career?
I remember growing up, I loved tinkering, I loved math, I loved science, I loved building things. And then in middle school, we take all the career placement tests, and every single one that I got said, you should be an engineer, you should be an engineer. And I said, no, they're weird. I want to be an efficiency. And so I fought it, and I said, no, I want to do something else, But then the more I thought about it, and actually I took a physics class in 9th grade at Corner Canyon, and we went on a field trip to a mining engineering company. I forget what the company was, but we went on a field trip, and I looked around, and I saw the machines, and I saw the labs they were working on, I saw the work they were doing, and I said, actually, okay, this is pretty cool. I love the idea of building things, and I love math, but not that much, and I love science, but not that much. And so I'll take the math and the science, and I'll use it as a tool to become an engineer, and then I can build things and change the world. So in 9th grade, I decided I wanted to be an engineer. And then the next year, when I was a sophomore, my family took a vacation to Florida, where we visited the Kennedy Space Center. And I remember going through the different exhibits, and one exhibit in particular that showed a video of the Space Shuttle program and the Space Shuttle Atlantis. And at the very end, they had a picture of the Space Shuttle Atlantis, and it was floating there in the air. And then they lifted the screen up, and behind the screen was the real Space Shuttle Atlantis sitting in the exact same position on the video. And I remember I talked to my mom, my whole family about that moment, and it really hit all of us, like, this is real, this is cool. And so wandering around the rest of the exhibits, I looked to my mom and I said, Mom, I want to come back here one day. And she said, oh, that'd be fun. I said, no, Mom, like, I want to come back here. I want to work here one day. And so that day, it was July of whatever year, I was a sophomore.
We won't date you.
Yeah. I remember that day was when I decided. I didn't really know what NASA did. I didn't know what all the different programs were, what you could work on, but I knew that's where I wanted to be. And so then as I continued in school and I went to BYU, I got more experience with rocketry and propulsion. That's kind of what I gravitated towards. I did some internships with NASA in that world of rocket design and propulsion. And then I ended up taking a job as an operations controller for the space station. And so it's actually not an engineering job. I don't do much engineering day to day, but the skills that I learned as an engineer, the critical thinking, the communication, those types of skills are very beneficial. And then having the background of engineering, understanding science that we do on the space station is all really helpful as well. So maybe more than you asked for, but that's how I knew I wanted to be there.
I think you make a great point about how, the skill sets that you learn, be it in elementary school where you're learning to collaborate as a team, to engineering and science, it helps to know what your counterparts are doing, right? You can understand why this might take longer than you would imagine it would if you didn't know the minutiae of it.
Definitely.
I love your title. It sounds so exciting to me. You're an operations controller supporting the ISS. It sounds exciting. What does that mean?
Yeah, so we have a whole team of flight controllers. You've probably seen the movies where they're like, Houston, we have a problem, and have the fancy headsets and the computers and the big screens. Not a vest, just polos and ties sometimes.
There, yeah, okay.
No, one day. So we have this whole team of flight controllers, and there are different flight control centers all around the world. We have one in Houston. Houston's the one that runs the space station, kind of keeps the lights on, so to speak. We have others in Europe, in Russia, in Japan, and in Canada, as well as random different places that work on science projects for us. And so this whole team of flight controls all around the world.
And all things come back through Houston, right? Houston is like the hub.
Yes. Yeah, Houston is the hub. They're the ones that they have the astronaut training office, and so they are responsible for a lot of the space station itself. And then in Huntsville, Alabama, we have the Payload Operations and Integration Center. And so when we talk about payloads, we mean any sort of science experiment that flies to space.
Okay.
And so we're responsible for the thoroughfare of all the science experiments that end up going to space.
We had one just last year that went to space.
Oh, yeah?
From Hillcrest High.
All right.
Nematodes to the rescue.
Awesome.
Shout out Huskies.
Awesome. I love it. And so we see all the science experiments that come through, and we have teams that help to write the procedures that the astronauts will work on. We have teams that work to do all their scheduling. They build the schedule down to every 5 minutes. Then we have other teams that review different safety procedures to make sure we're taking all the precautions that we need to. And then I have a real-time team of flight controllers in the front room with different positions who all are responsible for different things.
Wow.
So all that context, as an operation controller, I sit in that front room with the headset, and on the screen we see the astronauts, we listen to each other, we listen to all around the world, and we listen to the astronauts themselves. And so as they execute their science experiments every day, I'm responsible for controlling those operations, so to speak. I'm an expert on the science experiments. I know what they're doing, I know why they're doing it, and then I also talk to the people who own the science experiments, whether a university or a company or another NASA program that's owning the science experiment. I'm also responsible for the real-time safety, so I know all the safety steps that need to be taken. I can answer any of those questions and make sure we're doing it safely. I'm responsible for what we call timeline execution, so when things don't go according to plan, when it takes longer or shorter than expected, or we need to shuffle things around, I'm responsible for kind of coordinating that throughout the day. And then another big thing I'm responsible for is anomaly resolution. When something goes wrong, when something breaks, when something doesn't work, a science experiment doesn't go according to plan, which happens all the time since we can't test things in microgravity here on the ground. I'm responsible for coming up with creative solutions as to how we can fix the problem or go about it or minimize the impacts to everything else.
So project manager meets science expert meets emergency response.
Something like that, yeah.
No pressure.
Yep.
None whatsoever. That is fascinating. Do you have a favorite science experiment that you've seen go through? Was it nematodes to the rescue?
I have a lot. I can't say I know much about that one, so I'm gonna have to call it Hillcrest and learn more about it because it sounds fascinating. One of my favorites, it's kind of the fun one, is Astrobee. We have these little robots that fly around the space station, and we can have people on the ground. We'll have sometimes different schools send up programs that they can control the robots themselves.
Awesome.
Or we're learning how to kind of free fly things in space. It's really fun to watch. Another one of my favorites that's currently running it's an experiment that's testing boil-off propellant in space. Mm-hmm. And so when we send rockets and propellant into space, they tend to lose some of the propellant they can carry just as it boils off into the atmosphere. Right. So we're learning how to minimize that so that we can maximize the propellant that we take to space. Lots of random things. We do lots of biological research with different cells, studying cancer or other types of things and making good progress here on Earth. There's a company that has learned how to 3D print organs. They printed a meniscus. They can print different organs in space using cells that someone sends up of their own from the ground. Lots of cool things going on.
You can't say it right now, but my jaw's on the floor. I think I could listen to you explain some of these projects forever.
And I could talk about it forever. So
this will be a long podcast. Obviously there's a lot of science that is involved. You've mentioned that. You've mentioned your engineering. Recently, you were the keynote speaker at the Canyons Education Foundation Gala, where you spoke about how STEM learning helped you to succeed. Could you touch on that again?
Yeah, as I think back, even as early as middle school, being able to develop some of those skills that I mentioned, critical thinking was definitely a big one that I learned even through little hands-on demonstrations of things in elementary school. I remember as early as kindergarten, we were putting together this little cardboard kit of a car or something. I don't know. As early on as that, this hands-on experience has really helped me. And then being able to enter middle school, where I first had my chance to take different electives that I wanted to, taking an exploring technology class where I learned some different woodworking tools and different machines or things that we would put together. I especially remember in high school being able to dive more into some of those foundational classes, things like physics and chemistry and math. Yeah. And then another engineering class where I was first exposed to the world of 3D printing and additive manufacturing, things like circuit design and putting together little Arduinos and push a button that lights a light bulb. Right?
And you were so thrilled when that light bulb turned on.
Oh, I was. It took a lot of work, and I was very frustrated. And I said, why am I doing this? And then it works, and you say, it's all worth it.
It's worth it.
Yeah. And then it breaks again, and you say, okay, back to the drawing board. But
well, it's like you said, he didn't fail. He found 1,000 ways to not make a light bulb.
Exactly. And I found 1,001 in the classroom that day. So, yeah. And then going through school, again, all the hands-on experience that I had at Corner Canyon especially, and then being able to participate in the C-Tech program at the time, where I was introduced to CAD mechanical design, being able to make 3D models on the computer and laser cut them or 3D print them, or even just study them and be able to make things based on the models that I created was really helpful. That CAD class was especially helpful when I went to BYU. Taking CAD at BYU is a notoriously difficult class. It's a strong learning curve. It takes a lot of work and hours into the night, some people even staying overnight to finish these different projects because there's so much you need to learn and develop. But going in with that foundation of those 2 or 3 classes that I'd taken in high school made it so that that class was much less of a burden for me, actually really, really enjoyable. I was able to spend more time on the creative side and do what I wanted and get creative and play with the program a little more because I'd already learned so many of the basics even in high school. And then the last thing, again, relating to C-Tech was the engineering capstone program that we had. We worked to make a remote control lawnmower, just a fun little project that we got to come up with and put together, and it was really neat. There are other companies that stole my idea, and now they make autonomous lawnmowers, and I'm going to go make one that's better and cheaper because I can't afford them. But
I'm first in line.
All right.
Take me mini.
All right. So yeah, thinking back on all those experiences and the skills that they taught me, yes, the technical skills, but the collaboration, as you mentioned earlier, the critical thinking and those types of skills have really carried over into my job now.
It's really cool to hear you say how much it prepared you for your college classes too. I mean, just college in general, but then you add engineering on top of that. I think a lot of students feel unprepared when they get to college. So to have those programs where we're able to say, this is what you're going to experience, this is going to get you that step up so that you enjoy college and you want to continue and learn more.
Yeah, and I'd add it helped. It's easy for me because I decided very early on that I wanted to be an engineer. Mm-hmm. But if I had decided at the end of my senior year that's what I wanted to do, I may have missed out on some of those opportunities, right, just by not taking advantage of it. And so what I'd encourage everybody is, if you know that's what you want to do, then go for it and jump right in, right? But if you're not quite sure, then still pick something and jump right in, right? That even slightly interests you, because you'll either find out that's what you want to do, you'll have a leg up, or you'll find out that's not what you want to do, and then you can spend your time in college doing something else, and you still have developed that skill set that will directly translate over to whatever you end up doing.
And you have the time to adjust to whatever your passion becomes.
Definitely.
I think, and you're exactly right, there are so many people who maybe they knew from elementary school or middle school what they wanted to do, but then there are others who enter college and they're still not sure. And you can find a path either way. It's just making sure that you're taking what you have learned and applying it to your new passion.
Definitely.
I had the privilege of getting to watch you speak to your little sister Ellie's class over Zoom last year. You said some similar things that you said even from the donations at the gala. We were always giving credit to the educators who worked with you when you were a student here at Canyons. What is it about those educators that made such an impact on your life?
I like that you bring up that experience. That was a really full circle moment for me. A teacher at the time was Mrs. Saltmarsh in middle school, And Mrs. Saltmarsh was actually my kindergarten teacher at Oak Hollow Elementary.
So cool.
And so being able to present to her classroom with my sister there in the audience at the school that I had attended in middle school was a really full circle moment for me. I remember talking to you after I talked to Mrs. Sterling, who was my 8th grade teacher, math teacher as well. I brought her down and we were able to talk more. She was someone who inspired me to think about working for NASA. She actually had a family friend who worked there and we talked about it. She also ran the math counts club that I was heavily involved in and taught me a lot about math and those types of skills after school as well. And so when I think back to those experiences and those teachers and all the teachers, there were especially those who went above and beyond to provide me with opportunities, whether it was extracurricular, staying extra time outside of school to host a club like that, or staying outside of school to help me with something that I was struggling with as an assignment, or being able to adapt the lesson we were doing at the time to what I needed, whether I needed something more challenging or something less challenging. Yeah. Teachers were always willing to adapt. And that was a theme that I noticed with all of my Canyon School District teachers growing up, was their willingness to provide me with experiences that helped me where I was at. I can't speak for any other students in the classroom, right? But I can only imagine that the same was true across the board. These teachers love their students, they love what they do, and they love being able to provide experiences for each one.
No. You mentioned it was a full circle moment with your sister. How did that feel? Was it surreal? You know, you, like you said, you went from one side of the classroom to the other in a way, and your sister's there, she gets to see her big brother succeed. What were you feeling?
It was really special. I look up to all my younger siblings. I look up to my sister, even though we're 12 years apart. I look up to her and I learn from her every day. And to being in that classroom and then being able to go back the next year, I went and presented in person to the entire grade, where I had cousins in the audience and family friends and people that I knew. And it means a lot to me to be able to give back to the school, to give back to the community, and especially to give back to my family and my siblings as much as I can.
And your parents were able to Zoom in with you when you couldn't come home for that one, and then they were able to join you for the gala this year. That was really cool to see that family connection. That's beautiful.
Oh, definitely. It was really special, and I owe everything I am and have done to them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Shout out to the Newman family.
Oh, yes.
I want to kind of take a left turn here. I'd love to hear your insight. We have so much technology that's rapidly progressing right now. You look at AI, for example. I remember when our cell phones came out, and it was amazing that we could just walk around with a cell phone, right? I'm dating myself with that too. But then we had, Siri and Alexa, and that was incredible. Well, now we have artificial intelligence. It can be a tremendous tool. I think it could also, it's moving at such a rate that I think there's a bit of a learning curve that we're having. As a scientist, how are you seeing AI progress?
That's a good question. As technology develops, as AI develops, I first hope that we never lose the human side of creativity.
Yeah.
Even talking about STEM education, I love advocating for STEAM education and making sure we're including the arts, which is something that's been so integral to my life and my development. I've been a musician my entire life. I watch my siblings who are in music and in art and all these different things, and being able to train both sides of the brain, so to speak, has been a game changer. I would not have the job that I do if I wasn't a musician. Right? No matter how much hands-on STEM technology I would have learned, when I interviewed with NASA, one of the biggest things we talked about was my music and my music history and the things that had taught me. And as I've noticed, all the other interns that I was hired with and all the other people around me, everybody has something else that they do as well that helps to give context and to give more foundation and creativity to the engineering and the technical work that we do. And so I hope that as we utilize artificial intelligence, that we maintain the human creativity side and that we use it as a tool to help boost our own creativity. My favorite things to use it for are, I'll be writing a piece of code and I'll say, hey, AI, this is what I want to do. this is what I'm trying to accomplish. Do you have a couple different suggestions for me as to the most efficient way to write it or most efficient way to do it? This is what I'm doing. Do you have any advice for me? Right. As opposed to saying, hey, I write code that does this for me.
Right.
Or I think of when I was in school myself, even using AI, I was working on an essay or project or something. I said, hey, AI, these are the thoughts that I'm having. What do you think? Is there anything that I'm missing? How do these tie together? Or almost using it more as brainstorming so that I could then go and produce the work myself. And that was very beneficial for me. Honestly, I'm still trying to figure out how to use it in the workforce today. Yeah. We are making a big push in the industry to utilize it more and to find the best ways to do it. So I don't really have the best answer. But again, I would tie it all back to, I hope that we can never lose the human creativity and that we can instead use it as a tool to help us brainstorm and come up with more ideas ourselves.
I couldn't agree more. If you'll pardon the pun, I think it's a great launching pad.
Uh-huh.
Straight out of there. Maybe some days your creative ideas just aren't there, right? There are days where you're like, oh, this is such a great idea, and then we can do this, and we can do this. And there are other days where you just don't have that energy. And so I too like to use it as here's my baseline thoughts. Am I missing something? What can I add to this? And then I take that and I make it my own. I think you put that perfectly. Speaking of creativity, I have to ask this question, or we have to have this discussion, because we are also in a world where we have so many sci-fi movies, right? I think that's our go-to genre these days is sci-fi, dystopian, you name it. First of all, I'm told I have to ask you this question.
All right.
Did we land on the moon?
I'm surprised that a lot of people still believe in the moon.
Oh,
just kidding. No, we most definitely did land on the moon. We have videos, we have evidence that we did it not only once, but 6 different times. There were 12 different people that landed on the moon, and we're so grateful for the science, the lessons that they learned and brought back to Earth, the science, literal science samples that we have, parachute, the science samples that we have, some of which we've already opened and studied, and some of which they stashed away so that we could open later when we had more advanced capabilities to be able to study these samples. I'm also excited that we're pushing now to return to the moon to have a lasting presence as part of the Artemis mission. So yes, Apollo did land on the moon, and we are learning from those experiences as we build newer and better rockets to go back and go further than ever before.
But Nico, where no one has gone before.
That's the plan. That's the goal.
Speaking of where no one has gone before, do you think we're on track for Mars?
I think we have a lot of work to do,
Mm-hmm.
but I think there are a lot of capable people at NASA and at other companies that we partner with who are doing what we need to and figuring out the research that we need to in order to get there. So on track, most definitely. As far as the time frame, I have no idea.
Well, whatever that may be.
If there's one consistency in space exploration, it's that nothing is actually consistent. You never know. Things always happen.
Yeah.
If there's anything consistent, it's the inconsistency.
Can you...
Even speaking to the Artemis 2 mission, when it was supposed to launch, it had to be delayed for some different reasons, even something as small as a cloud in the sky to delay the launch. And so we continue to plan, and we continue to look at these different opportunities, not only for Artemis 2, but for every mission that's coming after that.
Yeah. I bring up Mars because I have to bring up one of my favorite recent movies. I'm the type of person that I cannot have a favorite movie. That's just not possible. The Martian. So we have movies like The Martian, Project Hail Mary just came out recently. You have Interstellar. I have to know, with being a guy on the inside, how do these movies look to you? Are you sitting there the whole time going, no, they would never do that? Or do you go, wow, they got that right? What are your reactions to those movies? Can you go to those movies, or do they just grind your teeth?
Yeah, definitely a bit of both.
Well,
as a sci-fi fan myself, I love all of the movies. I love seeing them all. I kind of have to set aside some of the things that aren't exactly accurate. But yeah, I haven't seen Project Hail Mary yet, but I've heard from one of the astronauts that we talked to last week, they said they saw it and it was awesome except for the part where they didn't pressurize the suits before they left the airlock. And he said they would not have survived. And I said, you're right, you've done it. You've been on
thing.
You've been on a spacewalk yourself, and and we know that you need to pressurize a suit.
You
So,
only need to pressurize your suit.
I don't know. Again, I haven't seen it. Maybe I misheard him, but yes, definitely a bit of both. There was a movie about the space station that I did watch, and that was actually hilarious to see all the inaccuracies. But
We won't name which one
What
that
can you
was.
do?
Do you have a favorite space movie, TV show? Did you grow up on Star Trek?
I am a big fan of Interstellar.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm a scientist, I'm a musician, and so to see that sci-fi movie and to hear the soundtrack by Hans Zimmer
Yeah.
is really cool. I'd have to say that's one of my favorite movies out there. And then all the others, of course. I love the movies that tell stories about NASA. I love Hidden Figures. I love the Apollo 13 movie. I love those sorts of movies that it's cool to see the history and how they portray it. Whether or not it's 100% accurate, you can't necessarily expect it to be, but it's cool to see all those stories as well brought to the screen.
I recently watched A Million Miles Away. I thought that one was...
I love that one.
Just, it's so humanizing for NASA, right? I mean, the fact that I'm sitting across from someone right now who sits in operations control is just blowing my mind. But it was really cool to see that on the big screen, too, of, he's an average guy.
Yeah.
It's the American dream. He just wants to go to space.
Yeah, and it's cool to see, the people I work with and the astronauts themselves that we interact with, they come and visit us and we chat with them. I was talking to one the other day and knew he was a Steelers fan and I'm a Steelers fan, and we said, go Steelers, and we bonded and took a picture, and it was great. That's cool. Really, like you said, it humanizes everything. And it's important for us to remember, too, in our job that we are working with humans that are living in space and are away from home, and they have rough days just like we do. And so we understand the workload that they have to go through as they're doing their science experiments, and we try and do what we can to help them out.
Do you have dreams of going to space, or are you good wearing a headset?
I would love to go to space. We'll have to see if the opportunity ever presents itself. We'll have to see how I feel then and how my wife feels then, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
I think it'd be really cool. But I would be perfectly happy wearing this headset my entire life, and working in the job that I do is very fulfilling. I say it's about as close as you can get to being an astronaut without actually going to space, is helping them do their experiments every day.
What about one of those Blue Horizon flights? Will that do the trick for you,
That'd
or
be
is
cool.
that not enough?
I just want to see the Earth from space. I think that'd be really neat.
See the big blueberry in the sky?
Mm-hmm.
I could go on and on and on. I'm sure we could even have a whole podcast about space movies and their inaccuracies, but how awesome that is. As a final message, again, we have seniors who are about to step out into the world, taking hold of their journeys and following their dreams. Whether that's out of space or right here on Terra Firma, what message would you like to share with them?
I remember my first day at NASA. I don't remember who presented. I don't remember what the meeting was, but I remember this phrase really stick out to me. They said, think bigger, fail smarter, and work harder. And so I'd say whatever your dreams or your aspirations or your visions are, think bigger. Realize that you can accomplish those. And it doesn't have to stop there. Once you accomplish that, move on to the next thing. Set a new goal, right? Continue to learn and grow and think bigger of what you can and want to accomplish. Then recognize that there will be setbacks. We all know that. There's so many analogies you can give about setbacks, whether it's going to the gym or whatever, right? Everybody taught with these analogies. We're bound to fail. We're bound to make mistakes. And so fail smarter. Someone the other day also said fail intentionally, where not that you're trying to mess up, but everything that you do is intentional. And sometimes in engineering, we will intentionally break something to see how much force it could withstand and make sure that our model is accurate. And so sometimes we do test things to failure. And so whenever you do have the setbacks, see what you can learn from it and fail smarter. And then finally, the last message was work harder, which is there's, in support of these dreams and there's these ambitions, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of discipline and diligence and sacrifice, but nothing that's easy in life is worth it. The things that are the most fulfilling take a lot of work. And so without overworking ourselves, of course, and while taking care of ourselves, I would encourage everyone to keep working, to keep pushing, to work harder, and then to give back when you do accomplish, when you do become something not to forget the people and the programs and everything that supported you, and to do what you can to get back to them. And that's been arguably the most fulfilling part of my short career already at NASA, is being able to have conversations like this and visit people and visit places that mean so much to me. And so that's what's worked for me, so to speak. That's what I'd encourage everybody to do.
It's beautiful to see one of our own succeeding so well and enjoying life, and I hope you'll join us again when you do make it to space, if your wife's okay with that.
Fun. Absolutely. I always like to stay close to home, so take care of Canyon School District for me. Take care of my family, my siblings. Take care of everybody here, and we'll be back soon.
Indeed. We keep our eyes on the sky.
All right.
And thank you for listening. If there's a topic you'd like to hear discussed on the podcast, send us an email to communications@canyonsdistrict.org.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Connect Canyons. Connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram @Canyons District, or on our website, canyonsdistrict.org.